What's going on, everybody? Hope everyone is having a good weekend. It's Sunday afternoon, about 3:30. I want to do this quick video on Mr. Thomas Sawyer. I wanted to do a video on him about a little less than a year ago. This guy is very informative. I'm actually going to take the initiative to get his books, to know a little bit more about him. I actually talked about him before, but I'm looking at his videos right now, and I came across this video I actually saw about a year ago, and he is having an interview with some guy. I forgot the name. Well, anyway, the interview was about Black culture in America, and I'm gonna let him explain it a little more than I would, articulate as this man is. He's very well educated. He's a researcher and everything else. A lot of so-called pro-blacks do not like the man because he and many other Black men and women that don't teach victimhood to Black America like a lot of pro-blacks teach. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you guys look at the video, and we're gonna go from there. Hold on, let me share it. Here we go. Let's start from the beginning.
I never heard a gunshot.
Let me read what you say in your preface. You say, "Let me state here, and now that these essays do not mean, 1, all Southern whites were or are rednecks; 2, all Black Americans today or in the past were or are Black rednecks. One cannot predict," you write, "much less forestall all the clever misinterpretations that others might put on one's words. The most that can be done is to alert honest people to the problem." Black rednecks, who are they?
These would be blacks who came out of the Southern culture and who carried that culture with them north into the urban ghettos and into the ghettos of the South, for that matter, and who have not moved out of that culture since. Over the years, both blacks and whites have moved away from that culture. But in the poorest and worst of the ghetto areas, there are lots of people who have not. And these it's a culture which didn't do whites any good. And it's certainly not doing blacks any good today. And the tragedy is that people regard this culture as somehow the authentic Black culture, and therefore you're not to interfere with it.
I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from.
Black English is considered not quite proper English. On the other hand, if blacks happen to have all the power and own all the corporations and whites were working for them, it would be the other way around.
There was a period, I'm trying to remember now, I believe it was in the mid-70s, when substandard English began to become viewed as a discipline of its own within linguistic studies and so forth. And for all I know, it was all perfectly legitimate that certain speech patterns would be traced back to various regions in Africa and so forth. And this is a language of its own. It has its own validity. But your argument would be, I don't really care what its validity is. It's holding people back. It's preventing them from participating in the wider society. Is that right?
Absolutely. And also, none of these
not wider, wider.
Oh, is that so?
Society.
No, you can. Yes, they did not go back to Africa. If you look at the peach, for example, using the word axe for ask and stuff like that, all of that goes back to the South, and it goes back to the parts of Britain from which white Southerners came. So if you trace calling hog entrails chitlins, that was in a certain section of Britain, the section from which whites moved into the South, and they were known as rednecks and crackers in Britain in centuries past, before they ever set foot in the South. So the whole thing is as phony as the $3 bill.
In Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the
I'm gonna need to
intelligence
get that book,
IQ
Intellectual
scientist
and
James
Race.
Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today.
Guys, really pay attention to this part right here. This is very informative when you listen to it. And this whole video is about just letting you guys know, understand a little bit about this culture was framed for us, this ignorant culture that we currently have in Black America that doesn't do anything for our community at all. But look at this, what they're about to talk about the Black soldiers that were, and the white soldiers that was in Germany at the time that stayed there, actually, that had kids with German women. Just listen to it.
And both Black and white American soldiers had children with German women. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The Black kids and the white kids, the same. Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of Black soldiers in Germany grew up in a nation with no Black subculture. Close.
Do you guys understand what Black subculture is? It's not our culture. It's something that was put on us to manipulate us, to make us stay under the totem pole and things of that nature. As they say, as you guys can read it, Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of Black soldiers in Germany grew up in a nation with no Black subculture. This is very important. This is why basically, your sons and daughters listening to rap, looking at TV, looking at what you call that, Love of Hip Hop mess and anything else that doesn't put no intellectual thought process in your children or in yourself heads. This is demeaning, if you ask me, completely. But let's keep it going.
Quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this
No. The expectations are external. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which Black kids grew up in America today.
So they had.
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
So here's what I'm getting. There is something about Black subculture in America today that holds African Americans themselves back?
Yes, because that very same subculture held whites in the South back as well. That in the time, this mental testing in the First World War turned up, among other things, the fact that whites from various 4 or 5 southern states scored lower on the mental test than Blacks from 4 or 5 northern states. And so it really was a question of the subculture that was there, which was a handicap to both.
How this subculture handicap Blacks?
About the social degeneration, but let me give you just one quick example. When I grew up in Harlem in the 40s and 50s, I never heard a gunshot. Now, I'm sure someone fired a gun somewhere in Harlem, but it was not such a pervasive thing that you had to hear it. I have relatives in Washington. I asked them the same question. People in my generation.
Growing up in Washington, D.C.
Yes, and low-income Black neighborhoods. Did you ever hear a gunshot when you were growing up? And the answer was no. I have relatives in North Carolina. I asked the same question. No. And now, people in housing projects especially, they put kids, some of them, to bed in bathtubs so that they won't be hit by stray bullets in the night. Now we take it for granted that there's tremendous levels of crime and violence in the Black community. That was not always the case. In the 20s, it was very common for white celebrities, including George Gershwin and William Faulkner, to go up to Harlem not only for entertainment places, but to go into private homes of people they knew. And Gershwin played Rhapsody in Blue in this home where Walter White lived. Milton Friedman, when he was a graduate student at Columbia, he and the lady he later married would go dancing at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem. And he said, we had no fear of being mugged or accosted on the street or anything like that.
I've heard you say, Tom, when you were a boy growing up in Harlem yourself, Your own neighborhood felt totally safe to you.
Not totally safe. I wouldn't exaggerate, but it's nothing resembling today. I mean, I did sleep on hot nights. I would sleep out on the fire escape. When I tell people in Harlem that today, they think I'm from another galaxy, you know. But that people slept on the fire escapes in New York and in the public parks in the 30s, all over the city. Because it was not a jungle. And you can run through a great number of other things. Children raised without two parents present. That was about 22% in 1960. One generation later, it was 67%.
But then now
And
it's
it's
80.
gone up a little since then as well.
Now it's 80.
And now the rate among whites is higher than it was among blacks in 1960.
Right.
Why is it hard for? I want to read this real quick. The quote real quick. Hold on a second.
And now the rate among whites is higher than it was among blacks in 1960.
Right.
Why it's hard for blacks to move out of this culture? White liberals.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Black people are being slaughtered in the streets, killed in their own homes. These are our brothers and sisters,
Our friends, our family. We are done watching them die.
How do you define a white liberal?
Those kinds of people who have the kinds of attitudes that are called liberal in the United States, although the word is misused, those people have created an atmosphere in which these counterproductive cultures are to be celebrated, perpetuated, and the consequences overlooked. It reminds me of a scene in the Blue Max where this.
All right, so here we go. I'm gonna end that, sharing Mr. Thomas Sowell video. I recommend you guys to look him up. And this true. There's that last thing that you heard. It's like everything is shum when it comes to that. Like all these super woke networks, they don't want to talk about the crime that's going on in Black America. They want to talk about all this political stuff because, again, they get the political liberals, such as the AOCs and the Hillary Clintons and hundreds of other political liberals. They think of us as the mat that you step on when it comes to Black America. That no matter how many times you step on and leave mud on it or any debris from outside, they can do and say what they want, and they won't portray the realness that's going on. And to no fault of their own, they don't really need to. It's up to us. But again, as I say 100 million times, Black America, we like to promote our athletes, our actors, and just entertainers and Black celebrities like they're some type of God, being as though they're not. They actually are working with these people that really don't give a shit about us. And, all these pro-blacks that's talking that mess, that really just, they get paid off victimhood as well. If you're going to talk about how we can be better, productive of community, how we can go away from this this hood booger, not this hood booger portrayal that we've been doing since the 70s, maybe the 60s as well. We stopped putting that on a pedestal, taking up for that. Maybe it'd be different in places like Chicago, Detroit, LA, Newark, New York, Philly. Maybe it'd be different, but again, it's a lot of Black folks that want to follow behind liberal white mommy and daddy, But anyway, guys, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe to this video. Hit that like button, and I'll be back with a couple of more videos today. All right, peace.